How about USC? 4-8 a season ago. Go and get the quarterback in Caleb Williams. Go and get the wide receiver in Jordan Addison. Go and get a lot of other pieces on the outside of Mario Williams. Travis Dye, when he was healthy, was phenomenal. I mean, they've got some dudes, a lot of them via the portal. And they've been able to utilize that and be extremely successful and only have one loss on their record. Well, guess who that one loss is to? The Utah Utes. And guess who they drew in the Pac-12 title game? Utah. This is going to be a fun one to break down. Let's do it right here. All right. USC playing for the Pac-12 championship, favored by 3 points against guess who? Utah, the only team they have one loss to. Now, that loss came at Utah by 1 point. A lot of the USC fans were not crazy about some of the officiating that went down in that game, so no need to worry about that here. Be a neutral site. This game will be played fair and square. This is a Friday night game, so this will have all the attention of the entire country, and for USC, that's a big deal, not just because of the college football playoff. I mean, if they win this game, they're in the playoff. How about Caleb Williams? He's a guy that's very much so in Heisman candidacy. I would imagine he's the favorite for just about anybody and everybody that watches college football. The eyes of the country will yet again be on number 13 and the USC Trojans. And I think this is the kind of game where we could be seeing a Heisman moment. All right, so keep an eye on that. We'll talk about that in just a second. For Utah, though, they feel like they're still the top dog. Like, think about it. They beat Oregon twice last year to be the Pac-12 champion. And Utah's sitting there. They've heard all the talk about USC. And guess what? They're saying, we beat USC. We're still the Pac-12 champions. We're the top dog until you knock us off. So you got to prove it, USC. You got to prove that you are the superior program. And if you beat us in this game, so be it. But don't talk like you're the champion until you are the champion, is what I would imagine the tone is around that Utah program. Some hinge points for this game. The first time we saw this match ended up being kind of a shootout fashion. Both teams scored over 40. Cam Rising got in the end zone for a 2-point conversion in a gutsy kind of game from him. What kind of game is it this time around? Is it a wrestling match or is it a boxing match? I'll explain a little bit. For Utah, a wrestling match would favor their kind of style of play. And think about how a wrestling match goes. Sort of slow, physical, a battle of wills in the trenches, pushing back and forth. The physical will is really what wins this game. That's kind of how Utah plays. Averaging 5 yards a carry. They would like to slow this game down very much so than what it was last time they played and say, Caleb Williams, you're the best player in America, but guess what, my guy? Get a towel, get some Gatorade, get comfortable, because you've got to watch a lot of this thing as we go on a 10-play drive, on a 12-play drive, hold the ball for 10 minutes at a time. Like, that's the kind of game that I think Utah would like to play. Now, it requires some stops on their end. It requires picking up third downs. It requires a lot of those, short yardage that they'll have to pick up. But that's the kind of game that Utah would like to play. Because USC, for all the talent they have, especially on the offensive side, the defense at times has had issues. Now, keep in mind, USC allowed 90 yards against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, on paper, was the exact kind of formula that would be able to turn that game into a wrestling match. So USC's done it before. Can they do it again? Same kind of thing we talked about with J.J. McCarthy in the Michigan passing game. Can you do it a second time? Can you prove it? Utah's going to test them on that. Now, if it becomes a boxing match, that favors USC. Think about the style of a boxing match. Kind of high intensity, fast paced. You're trading haymakers, trading tags back and forth. That was what this was last time that USC played. And they feel very much so like they should have won that game. They feel like if they play that same style again, they can win this game. Again, they didn't love the officiating, but that's how USC plays. Haymaker after haymaker, offensive touchdown after offensive touchdown, high scoring. That would allow the strength of USC's team, again, the offense, Caleb Williams, that means they're having their impact on this game. Because the worst case scenario for USC is they get out of this game and the offense ran, 20 minutes. Like 20 minutes time of possession would be the worst case scenario for USC. Because your best player didn't get to have his say on how things went in this game. So the defense has got to hold up their end of the bargain, but USC wants to be able to just kind of go pound for pound, mano a mano, may the best man win. Let's play a fast-paced, high-scoring kind of game at a neutral site this time. So that's how that's going to look. Does the USC defense have an answer this time around for Dalton Kincaid. Now, some of you, I understand, don't frequently watch Utah football. Last time they played this game, a guy by the name of Dalton Kincaid, their tight end, went for like road to glory kind of numbers against them, quite frankly. Had 16 catches. That is not a typo. 16 catches, 234 yards and a touchdown. Folks, Utah only had 560 yards on the day. I say only in the sense of like, that's a pretty solid percentage. Darn near half of what Utah did offensively was through Dalton Kincaid. So on paper, you're saying, okay, if we're USC, if you take away Dalton Kincaid, that means Utah has to figure out some other plan of attack offensively. And Dalton Kincaid is really what hurts you. So if you can take him away, you probably can force Utah to have to score points the slow way. Meaning if they do score, maybe it's running the football. Maybe it's a little more of the intermediate game. It's not so much, okay, we're throwing it to our guy and he's getting whatever he wants. Like I said, 16 catches. If you can minimize that, I think the pace that Utah can play at gets slowed down significantly. Now, if you can't take him away, the whole conversation around the boxing match versus the wrestling match, like, I don't know if that matters quite as much. Because if that's the case, Dalton Kincaid's getting his, Utah's probably scoring right with you, and your edge that you had offensively gets minimized a little bit. Okay, because like I said, they scored, I think it was 43 last time to win the thing. So you got to take away Dalton Kincaid. Like, that's kind of the way this thing is going to work. If I'm USC, they played a lot of man, they played a lot of zone. I would bracket Dalton Kincaid, meaning you have one guy over the top, you have one guy underneath. The zone coverage didn't work last time because he would just kind of sit and find the soft spot, turn around, after he caught it, get 3-4 yards. The big dude got to tackle him. The man coverage didn't work because he's just a matchup problem. He's too fast for linebackers. He's too big for DBs. It's just not a good way to live if you're the defense. So have one guy over the top, one guy underneath. That would be my hope for the USC defense if I'm trying to slow him down. So here's my final hinge point. And we alluded to it a little bit at the beginning of this segment, but Caleb Williams needs to be the difference for USC. He played great last time against Utah. We need more this game. And he's steadily trended upwards in terms of his delivery for USC. He's always been the best player on the field for them, but I think the way he has propelled them in these last couple of games, especially against UCLA, they don't beat UCLA without the kind of effort Caleb Williams gave them. I think it's going to take something in that same vein to win this game. Because for Caleb Williams, this is the kind of game you came to USC for, brother. You came to play for a Pac-12 title and to have a chance to go make the college football playoff. Like, this is that kind of stage for him. This is that kind of moment. And so for 13, I'd love to see him take advantage of that. I'd love to see him play to his fullest potential. I think this is a potential Heisman moment for him. And think about the kind of style of play that Caleb Williams plays with. Dual threat, really special in space, hard to bring down, scrambles around like Johnny Manziel, has the arm angle thing that Patrick Mahomes has going. Like, that's kind of his freestyle out in the open kind of game that he plays. DTR is a similar version to that in terms of being a dual threat and scrambling, extending plays. Utah really struggled with DTR. I mean, UCLA went up and down the field on Utah because of that kind of style that Dorian Thompson-Robinson was playing with for UCLA. So all that's to say, it is all teed up. The table is set for Caleb Williams to take advantage. Now you got to cash in. Now you got to be who everybody expects you to be, who you expect yourself to be. Win this game. Win the Pac-12 title, college football playoff berth. The Heisman Trophy is likely in your living room in a few short weeks. So that's what's at stake. So here's our prediction. I think this one is back and forth. I really do. I think Utah is such an experienced team. They know who they are. In terms of an identity, like, Utah has no second guessing about what they can do both offensively and defensively. Kyle Whittingham has built a program. Not a program, not a good team. He's built a program over there in Salt Lake. Now, with that being said, Alex Grinch has taken a lot of flack for his defense, but they're opportunistic, if nothing else. In the last couple of weeks, especially last week really against Notre Dame, they answered the call to action. Like I said, played really well in the trenches, held them to 90 yards rushing against Notre Dame. Like, that's the kind of response that you need from USC in this game. So I think they end up getting that from the defense. I think Caleb Williams has that Heisman kind of game. And I think USC doesn't lose a shootout a second time. For Utah, it's hard to beat anybody twice, much less this talented, potent USC offense. USC actually was just about to put Utah away, but I think they end up finishing the deal. Now, I do think it is high scoring. I think it is a bit of a track meet, but I think USC ultimately makes enough plays defensively in terms of getting turnovers, and I think Caleb Williams has, like I said, a Heisman kind of game. USC wins this one 45-42 in Vegas. USC is your Pac-12 champions. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.